Are you afraid AI is going to steal your job? Are you a marketer who is looking to strengthen your skills in the areas of data analysis and reporting, forecasting models, dynamic search ad optimizations, or search term categorization? Well, in this video, we're going to give you some really actionable approaches in how to use AI chatbots like ChatGPT and get sharper, more insightful outputs in these areas. I am Matt, speaking to the marketing industry's top talent through the world-class growth agency Jump 450. My guest today is Google Ads expert and acquisition manager at Jump, Eric Herzog. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Yeah, anytime, Matt.
You've been using AI chatbots as we all have. Talk to me about talking to chatbots. How can
Yes.
we best communicate with chatbots? I know that we're going to get into some really specific areas that you've been going after. You know, you've got some best practices and some kind of pro tips in terms of like data analysis and reporting, if you're talking about forecasting models, things like that. But let's just start off with kind of like a short list of pro tips here. Philosophy towards talking to a chatbot. What do you got for me?
Yeah, totally. So I have a unique way that I like to prompt. So it's really like three separate components to every prompt. So first one being your goal. I always like to start off with what you're hoping to achieve, right? The next one is frame, what I'm calling frame. So this is who I want the AI chatbot to be. And then the third part of that is context. So just like a quick example, let's say I need help with search term analysis from Google, a search campaign. So my goal, I'm looking for help with analyzing these search terms, looking for X. The frame then would be, I want you, chatbot, to act as a Google Ads expert with over 20 years, running high performing, DR focused Google search campaigns. Really pairing the type of Google ad campaign type to what I'm giving it. Search term analysis, Google search ad expert. Product performance analysis, shopping expert, etc.
Yep.
And then context, that's really where I just kind of brain dump into there anything that I think it needs to just help really give me the best response that I'm looking for. So I'll spend a lot of time like formulating my prompt, just because I feel like with any AI solution, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So I don't mind spending the time, putting together these extensive prompts. But I do get lazy, I'll do this at the end of the day. So what I found is actually one of my favorite pro tips is using the speak to text within AI. So this allows me, especially if you have your account on your phone and your computer, I'll walk around the house just talking to the chatbot, giving it really everything that I want. And then what I love, it's like integrates with your same account on the computer. Then you can go to the computer and get your work done there too. But this text is huge. And I like speak to text over just like the voice interaction one. Because I feel like that one always it never really picks up when I'm like done with the sentence. It'll think I'm done speaking and it'll interject. So the talk to text is really what I find to be the most beneficial there. And then the last one, why I like paying. Well, I don't know if I like paying, but I don't mind paying for some of these solutions, is the ability to upload documents. So especially in a field like ours where we're analyzing huge data sets, being able to upload these data sets into a tool to help for analysis is huge. So I think that's really the big takeaway there from just like setting the stage, how we use AI. And then another one too that I think is just great to have for best practice is at the end of all of your prompts, you're talking, just asking, is there any more information that you need from me in order to give me the best possible response? I think that's something that tends to be overlooked. So if we're able to just ask these chatbots what else they need to give the best response, I think that can also go a long way.
Absolutely. Great tips there. And also, I would just say, I don't think this is fluffy. I think that the talk to text, I don't think is lazy. This is about communicating to someone, Sometimes it's easier to just get into a flow state and just sort of like speak something out than it is to be like crafting a sentence here. It's a smart shortcut to me. I love the tip of just like, is there any other information that you need to know? And Eric, I'm just going to say one more thing that you shared with me before we started recording, which is, I think it was an article that you saw about having manners when you're talking to AI.
Yeah, Yeah, so that's another one. I think it's hilarious because sometimes I'll actually find myself, well, I always, please, thank you, say hello, whatever it may be. And sometimes I'll like think to myself, like, do I really need to be this formal? But then actually I saw something that they'd done a study where if you're polite, you actually get a better output than if you're rude. So I think that's just great thing to keep in mind when interacting with these tools.
Makes complete sense. So that's some sort of like general philosophy sort of advice in just talking to a chatbot. But let's get into the meat and potatoes here. Yeah. Talk to me about like when you're talking to a chatbot about data analysis and reporting.
Yeah. So I think with this one, it really comes down to knowing what you're ultimately looking for first. You can't just go in and expect this chatbot to have the answers if you don't know the answer you're looking for. So that's really step one is, have a problem come across or a challenge that I'm trying to work through, really understanding what my desired end goal is by doing this. Is it identifying trends? Is it identifying new keywords to include in the campaigns? Is it identifying, kind of like the intent behind a bunch of keywords to know what frame of mind these users are in when they're searching and they're clicking on our ads, things like that. So it's really just understanding what you're hoping to achieve. And then it's taking that, that framework for the prompt that we had just spoke through. So my goal, please help me identify trends over the last 90 days that indicate what level of intent these users have through the search term analysis. I want you to act as a Google ad expert, 20 years experience running high profile search campaigns. For context, I'm going to upload a data set of search terms. I want you to analyze the search terms and pull out any key trends that you're identifying that can help me create better campaigns and ultimately drive stronger performance. From there, goes into it, you go back and forth, but it really just comes down to being as direct as possible when trying to actually pull these answers out of a chatbot.
What about pitfalls? Anything specific to data analysis and reporting that you see, like try to avoid this or that?
Yeah, I think the big one on that is being too vague. So it goes back to just like being really direct with what you're hoping to achieve. So if you're not direct enough, hey, for like example, hey, I'm going to upload all of the search term data for you to analyze, hit go. Like, what is it going to do? It's not going to analyze. It's not going to provide you the output that you're looking for in that situation. So I think this comes down to being direct and taking the time to actually formulate your prompt, know what you're trying to achieve first before going to the tool. So I think that's the biggest pitfall. And it's another one too, is kind of what we were just talking about before we started recording, where it's like, sometimes you get into a rhythm and it'll catch on to something and it starts going down the wrong road. It's really hard to backtrack and get it back to like, you had all this momentum. So I think that's another thing too, is with your responses and as you interact, just being really mindful and intentional with your responses, because ultimately trying to get it to lead you towards your desired result versus, now we're taking a detour and it's really hard to get back on track there.
Absolutely. Let's move on to forecasting models. Talk to me about your experience there.
Yeah, so this one's really interesting because I think it takes a lot of initial thought and like build up with prompting in forecasting. So for example, there's a different, like a business within Jump here that uses a different pricing model for clients. The way that it was put in place initially didn't really work as well for performance media. So I went to AI to help with actually just trying to figure out a better way to go about this. So gave it the current model, gave it what my proposed solution would be for this, and really just asked for help. What else do you need from me to be able to make this a more actionable forecast? And ultimately, what we got to a point was I had ChatGPT build me a spreadsheet within Google Sheets. Asked it, give me step-by-step instructions, how to set this up, what data inputs do you need, and was able to create a new financial model within this that I found to actually be a lot more beneficial for the specific pricing model that we have for this type of client. So I think it, again, too, really just comes down to like, what are you trying to achieve? What inputs do you need to give it and even asking it, being direct, what do you need to provide me with the best response? And how do we go about, achieving this solution? And then just interacting with it.
That seems like kind of a complex response to me, to be able to put something into like, or rather like a complex model to put something into Google Sheets. Can you give me any insight there into how you had it do that? Or, I mean, It seems like this was a successful.
Yeah, totally. It's a great question. I think, so there's really two ways that I've seen kind of like that output. So one of them will be, please help me, build a model within Google Sheets for forecasting revenue given a certain spend level. Let's just say, keep it pretty simple, straightforward. What I've seen, it'll give you like the two response, which response do you prefer most? One of them will be like step-by-step instructions, in cell A1, put spend, in cell B1, put revenue, etc. But then I've also seen situations where it's like, hey, I can actually just create this template for you in Excel to then export out of the tool. So then you can just import that directly into Google Sheets. The one that I've found more success with is really just walking through, like, please give me step-by-step instructions on how to do this myself. I think that's just because the way I learn, I'm better at like hands-on walking through the entire process.
Sure.
It's just getting an export of something and then hoping that that's what I'm looking for. But I think it's also just like asking for what you want. So going back to the first one around just like data analysis, being like, hey, I want you to provide me with an exportable format that has, the search term in column A, the whatever in column B, the month over month, year over year trends in column C, et cetera. And just asking. And I think that's something that people don't know exists, is you can actually just ask for an exportable format and you'll get a link and there it is. So that, again, that ties into just like having these tools build you a model.
Definitely. I would say as kind of a little bit of a red flag for me, at least with the exportable format kind of thing, I have run into issues there where it's like, it almost feels like it's going to be able to do that really well. Right now, it's like pretty finicky. It'll be like, oh, you want this design? Oh, let me just link you up to Canva. Let me just this or that. And it's like, security on my computer. You're not signed into XYZ. You're signed in, but I still don't know what's happening. It's just like, it's a little, so if you are looking for sort of a more complex model to spit it out, then I don't know. I would just say rule of thumb right now, while we're still sort of like early in with these things, it's like giving that step by step is maybe a better bet for accuracy.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I found as well. And I think it helps with like the overall creation of these things, because you can see exactly from like start to finish what needs to go into it, and then cater it towards your specific needs versus just like an export.
Eric, let's move to dynamic search ads optimization.
Yeah, so this one really goes along with just like the data analysis. So with DSAs, there's no actual keywords in there. It's all search terms that trigger the campaigns. So if you lean heavily on DSA for like your non-brand search performance, you get a ton of search term data coming in. So what we'll do, export out the search term data. And again, it really goes down to what you're trying to identify within the search term. So for example that I've used in the past is for a client that has storefronts in addition to just like, website performance, looking for any search terms that contain a location in them that we can use as negative keywords. So that's one that has been huge in terms of just improving performance is, please analyze this list of search terms from a DSA. Please extract any search term that contains a location in here, put that into a list, provide me that exportable list of search terms that contain location. And that way you can just directly add that as negative keywords to that campaign. So that's one that I've found to be really successful, because there are so many different city, town names, whatever, especially if you're going through like 10,000 search terms from a DSA. So rather than combing through yourself, like, oh, is this a city? Is this city? Having you go through, is it going to be perfect? No, but it definitely gets you to that endpoint a lot faster than if you were to do that by yourself. So that's one that I really love with DSAs, is just like looking for those trends, asking it to find what you're looking for within the search terms,
Yeah.
for these actionable optimizations like negative keywords.
At the end of this talk here, we are going to share a little tip that we have in terms of doing keyword research with AI tools. But before we get there, just talk to me about search term categorization.
Yeah, so this goes along with, that DSA. Let's say, for example, we want to use DSA as like our jumping off point for non-brand search. What we can do is export out all those search terms. I've asked these tools to actually categorize the search terms based on, common themes, intent, whatever it may be, and then use that to actually build non-brand search campaigns. Mm-hmm. Again, it's perfect, no, but it gets you a lot further really quickly. And then of course you can come through, see, does it all make sense? But that's really another one that I've used to just help expedite the process for building out non-brand search as well, is just, categorizing something that is really time consuming, having AI help with that. I've even asked these tools to create like Python scripts or things to automate it, like Google Sheet. So that's another one too, is, help me automate this process rather than just giving it to them. That's one that I did recently that I thought was really interesting, where it actually runs a script within a Google Sheet to categorize your search terms.
Any tips in terms of ensuring accuracy when you're categorizing like more nuanced terms?
Great question. So what I will do is, especially if we're just doing like keyword research around a specific theme or product, whatever it may be, ask for keyword research ideas, and then I'll actually take that list of keywords that it spits out and go put those into a tool like, SEMrush or Google Keyword Planner, something like that. Just because what we found is sometimes it'll spit out keywords that are really relevant to what you're looking for that actually have no search volume behind them.
Yep.
So it's good to just cross-reference and really just use these tools as a jumping off point. How do we get to our desired endpoint faster? And I think that's really the space that these tools work well for us, is just getting answers much more quickly, especially when it comes to these large scale, just like analyses.
Right. And Eric, I'll speak from my experience, but, correct me, because I know that the team was sort of talking about this. We're talking about doing keyword searches, and, I'll say something like, find me trending keywords with a search volume of over this much, and what I was finding was that AI would give me a list of keywords back. And then when I would cross-reference them with like a keyword search tool, it would be like, these have no search volume. This is not, this isn't accurate.
Yeah, totally.
We did sort of kind of get a tip from a coworker here that I think is super relevant in this space. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And that was to use Gemini. Instead of if you're using ChatGPT, if you're using Perplexity, whatever it is, because Gemini is a Google product, the thinking is that it'll have more intimate knowledge of what you're looking for there. And we did do a little bit of cross-referencing here and found that to be accurate. So
because in that example too, right, I had asked ChatGPT in this specific use case for audience signals to put into a PMax campaign. And it gave me a bunch of ideas that didn't actually exist as audiences within Google. But then we did the same thing with Gemini, and it gave us a lot of all of the audiences it gave us were available to use within like in-market affinity audiences within Google. So yeah, that was a huge unlock.
Absolutely. Eric, thank you so much for this. I feel like this was a quick list, a snackable list, really actionable. And, I feel like the big takeaway is, you get out what you put in. And if you put in sloppy prompts with messy objectives, then that's probably what you're going to get back. So be specific, be clear, be nice.
Yeah, exactly. Be nice.
Yeah. Really, this should just be helping us all become better communicators. It feels
exactly. That's what at the end, that's what we're looking for.
Yes. My friend, Eric Herzog, Google Ads expert and acquisition manager at Jump 450. Thanks for being here, bud.
Cool. Thanks, Matt.
If you are listening and you're interested in exploding your own digital growth, you can get in touch with Jump 450 in the link below in the description. That is www.jump450.com. And do not forget to subscribe for more weekly episodes. We'll see you next time.